Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. My name is Eric Herlock. Today is April 1st, 2020, no joke. And it's no joke that we're in about the fourth week of the coronavirus shutdown here in Pennsylvania. According to the Pennsylvania Department of Health website, there have been 4,843 confirmed cases of COVID-19 here in Pennsylvania. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention's website, as of yesterday, there were 163,539 cases nationwide and 2,860 deaths. But these numbers are certainly greater today and will continue to grow, which is why we all need to do our part to stop the spread of this virus, flatten the curve, staying home, staying away from people, washing hands, all that stuff. You're probably sick of hearing about it, but it's important. I hope that you and your family are taking this seriously and doing your part to stay safe. Anyway, today's show is broken up into a few different parts. We'll get into some hemp news nuggets and eventually talk to hemp farmer and semi-regular podcast guest Tom Colton about what's going on at his farm in Hempfield, Pennsylvania. But I'm also going to introduce a new segment today called Mailbox Markets Stories, and I hope you like it. So first, we'll hear about our sponsor, and then we'll be back with some dank nuggets of hemp news. This episode is sponsored in part by Pterodon Hemp, located just off Marietta Avenue in Columbia, Pennsylvania. New to the hemp supply chain, Pterodon Hemp will be providing hemp drying solutions. Equipped with a high-capacity belt dryer, Pterodon Hemp will reduce your drying time. Call 717-719-0141 or go to pterodonhemp.com. Click the link Email us to get scheduling and pricing quotes, and don't forget to mention the podcast. Okay, welcome back. So it's not all doom and gloom. It is, after all, spring again. It's a sunny day here in southeastern Pennsylvania. Farmers are gearing up for the season. Hemp farmers everywhere are getting ready too. And today is the deadline to apply for a grower's permit in Pennsylvania. So by the time you're hearing this, it's probably too late. Hopefully you're more on the ball than that. So there are a few changes to the hemp program application process related to the COVID-19 service disruptions. And here's what the Department of Agriculture's website says about that. So they say, the deadline for hemp growers' application is April 1st, 2020. However, applications that are submitted without the required Identi-Go receipts or without the Identi-Go information will be accepted and processed. A new deadline for receipt of complete Identi-Go information will be set after the service is reinstated, providing ample time for the fingerprinting process to be completed. The applicant will be responsible for submitting the required Identi-Go information once the service is reinstated, and the department will review all Identi-Go information and take appropriate enforcement action where necessary. It goes on to say that the department expects that applicants should be able to obtain other documents without impact by COVID-19, application, property maps, property leases, and access agreements. However, the department will consider exceptions to the April 1st, 2020 deadline on a case-by-case basis if written notification detailing extenuating circumstances affecting the gathering of these documents is received prior to the April 1, 2020 deadline. Okay, so I tried to get an interview with somebody from PDA this week, but they are understaffed and overworked, and there's a pandemic. I'm curious about the 2020 program. Are there more applicants this year than last? Are they the same growers? Are there new growers? How is the state dealing with the USDA changes to the interim final rule? Does the fact that many states are sticking with the 2014 rules put our farmers at a disadvantage? So I hope to schedule an interview with the Department of Agriculture later this month. Speaking of sticking with the program, Hemp Industry Daily reported last week, and I quote, "To date, 20 states have said they will follow the 2014 pilot rules this growing season, outnumbering the states that have so far received USDA approval for their production plans under the interim final rule. The result is that the nation will again see a patchwork of varying hemp production guidelines in 2020, despite federal efforts to streamline hemp regulations to mirror other commodity crops. The USDA has also approved hemp production plans for 14 American Indian tribes. And related to that, hemptoday.net is reporting just today that the hemp programs in Iowa and Georgia have been approved. And in Iowa, get this, you can only grow a maximum of 40 acres. And South Dakota is finally getting on board. According to the Sioux Falls Argus Leader, industrial hemp and CBD oil are now legal in South Dakota after a year-long standoff between Governor Kristi Noem and legislators. Noem signed House Bill 1008 into law on Friday. It's last week, and it goes into effect immediately. The bill includes $3.5 million in funding to set up the state's industrial hemp program, though funding is subject to change as Noem has called for a special session in June to address the budget in the wake of the coronavirus. All right, welcome to the club, South Dakota. And finally, some news you can use. The National Hemp Association is hosting an educational webinar series to its members. Topics include CBD cultivation best practices, fiber and grain cultivation best practice, selecting genetics, how to read a certificate of analysis, understanding THC testing, CBD extraction methods, taking products to market, and more. Here's a little snippet of what you can expect.
Hi, my name is Ross Duffield, and I'm a seasoned farmer who's been growing hemp for several years. The things to keep in mind for a successful harvest are site selection, irrigation, fertility, and how you're going to harvest your crop. And these videos will help provide some of that information, and if you're looking forward to more, please go to nationalhempassociation.org.
You remember Ross Duffield. He was the very first guest on the very first episode of this very podcast. So like he said, you can find more info at the nationalhempassociation.org. All right, that's the hemp news nuggets in a nutshell. And you can find links to all these stories and whatnot on the show page for this episode at lancasterfarming.com. Okay, so the next part of the show is something that I'm calling Mailbox Markets Stories. And bear with me here, it's going to require a little setup. Okay, so if you listen all the way to the end of the show each week, you'll know that I usually describe Lancaster Farming newspaper as the greatest agricultural newspaper in the world. I'm not exaggerating that. It's true. There are many things about this paper that just set it apart from anything else that's out there. But if you're not familiar with Lancaster Farming newspaper, let me walk you through it a little. Okay, so the first section of the paper is the A section. And this is where you find the main news, the farming stories, the editorials, letters to the editor, national news, weather, ag science news. Sometimes there's a tractor gallery, and pages of market reports, livestock, hay, grains, poultry, produce, dairy. So that's the A section. It's like 50 pages chock full of all kinds of stuff, including ads for things that farmers want. There's also the B section, the C section, and the D section, and sometimes an E section. So it's like a fat chunk of agricultural news, all kinds of stuff, lots of classified ads and whatnot. But the B section, this is sort of the home and family section. Recipes, health, wellness, feature stories on people doing interesting things in the world of agriculture, the kids' corner. There's columnists who have been writing their columns for the past 30 years, gardening, home improvement, that kind of stuff. And then about halfway through the B section, you find the mailbox market ads. These are essentially classified ads broken into categories, people selling stuff, people looking for stuff. But what sets these mailbox markets apart is that they are for subscribers only. So as a subscriber, you can place 2 mailbox market ads for free every month. It's part of your subscription. And our subscribers love these ads. I know this sounds like I'm leading up to selling you a subscription, but that's up to you. I want to tell you about these mailbox market ads. So these mailbox market ads are super fun to look through. You can find almost anything in here. A lot of farm stuff, machinery, tractors, trailers, plows, livestock, antiques, land, all kinds of stuff. It's like a flea market on steroids in the pages of Lancaster Farming. My coworker Ann told me that she once saw somebody selling an airport in Mailbox Markets. So I started doing some research. I wanted to know how long we've been publishing these ads, and we've got an archive, an online archive that's housed by Penn State University. So I went back in there and I dug through back to the first issue and the second issue, and it turns out that Mailbox Markets have been part of our paper since the very beginning. Well, almost the beginning. The first Mailbox Market ads appeared in our paper in the second issue, November 11th, 1955. So that's over 64 years of Mailbox Market ads. So these ads are instrumental to the character of our paper, and they're something that has connected the farming community here in Pennsylvania and in the Northeast for generations. So as I researched these Mailbox Market ads, I began to see it as a rich tapestry of stories of farmers told through these short little classified ads. And there are hundreds of ads each week, on average 700 Mailbox Market ads a week. So I love stories. I love listening to people tell stories. So I thought, what if I dig in here and see what kind of stories I can find? And then so, you look through and, all right, here's 98.9 acre farm for sale. Here is McCormick number 100 painted with John Deere green. Not sure what that is. A life-size fiberglass horse. A milk crate filled with old cookbooks and pamphlets. Ask for Kathy. A gravity wagon. So there's all kinds of stuff in here. And it's entertaining, and it's also informative, and it's great. This is if you talk to subscribers of Lancaster Farming, they tell you about the Mailbox Markets and how much they love them. So I got me thinking a little more. What if I put an ad or two in the Mailbox Markets looking for stories? So late last fall, I put an ad in that simply said, "How has Mailbox Markets changed your life? Call the Lancaster Farming storyline and tell us all about it." And I started getting some calls.
Hello, my name is Charlie High. I'm a lifetime Lancaster Farming subscriber. I've been reading the Lancaster Farming Mailbox Markets for many, many years. And I want to tell my story.
Yeah, my name's Harry Spade from Paradise. It's about a tractor I found in there, 97. Thank you, goodbye. Call me if you want to, goodbye.
Okay, so maybe by now you're starting to see what I see. But you might be asking yourself, what does this have to do with industrial hemp? I'm not sure. I'm sort of going out on a limb here. You're going to have to trust me on this. I know I'm taking a risk, but I think this is worthwhile. I think you're going to enjoy these stories. Think of it as a podcast within a podcast. And so this is the first installment of Mailbox Market Stories. Today we're going to hear from Harry Spade, who was on a mission to find the John Deere 420 tractor that his father had bought in 1958 and then sold in the late 70s. It took Harry nearly 20 years, but through the magic of Mailbox Markets, he found it. Tell me this again. In the 50s, you bought the tractor.
58. May the 5th of 58, Dad bought the tractor.
And what kind of tractor was it?
It was a John Deere 420.
And what kind of farming were you doing back then?
Oh, wheat, tobacco, hay, corn, 4 main crops.
Did you have livestock?
We had steers in the wintertime.
Yeah, well, you said your dad bought it in 58?
May the 10th of 58, yeah.
And then what happened to the tractor?
Well, we farmed with it till our barn burnt down in 75, January the 10th, and my sister got it out of the barn before it burned up. She lost some of her hair over it, though, but she got it out. And we farmed for another 2 or 3 years. Well, Dad didn't want too much. Sisters wanted him to quit farming. He was 76 years old, 77.
When the barn burnt down?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. How old were you?
Oh, my. That's about 40.
You wanted to keep farming?
I did, yeah. I wanted to keep farming. But I was doing most of the work myself anyway. After the barn burnt down, we farmed for a couple of years yet. They wanted me to farm, and I just didn't think I could make it.
Why not?
It wasn't as big a farm as most of them are. So in 78, sisters got him talked into selling out. So we sold everything. Early 90s, I started looking for it, the John Deere. Tried to find it, I couldn't.
Where were you looking for it?
In the Lancaster Farming Mailbox Market, I put an ad. Yeah, I seen tractors in there, 420s, but if I called about them, they weren't the ones.
How could you tell it was the one or not?
Well, the serial number. I had a serial number, and my dad made a toolbox and hung it on the back of the seat. That was still on. There was a couple other little odds in that.
So what, you just kept looking in the paper for it?
Yeah. One day at 97, I think it was around February 24th of 97, I opened the paper up. The first thing I seen was this John Deere 420. The first thing. And something all day long made me want to call about it. So Saturday evening, I called about it, and I asked them for the serial number. They gave me the serial number, 112095, and it was sitting up in Finger Lakes, New York, but I didn't get up to see it. And he called me and said he sold it to a guy in Owensville, Lancaster County. So I called him. He gave me his phone number. I called him, and he said he'd sell it. He says if you don't buy it till Wednesday, he said he's going to load it on a truck and move it to Kentucky. Well, then I wouldn't find it anyway then after that. So I scraped a little money together and went back and bought it.
Can I ask how much you paid for it?
When I bought it back?
Yeah.
$2,100. Now, you want to know what it costs new?
I sure do.
$2,395.
You still have that tractor now?
I still have it, yeah.
Yeah. What kind of farming are you up to?
I'm not.
No?
No, I just got the tractor back. That's all I wanted.
Yeah. Do you take it out? Do you start it up?
I did, yeah. The last couple of years I have it. But going to try to get it repainted. It don't need anything except paint.
Still runs good.
Yeah, it runs good.
Well, they say nothing runs like a deer, right?
That's what they say, don't it? But it's funny how all I have to do, something made me want to call about that tractor. I don't know why. And like I say, my dad bought it new. I remember when they unloaded it, brought it out on a Saturday, I think it's Saturday morning. Didn't have no rollback trucks. Had it on a flatbed truck. Had a bank there. We backed up to it, put some big heavy planks down. And I was 10 years old when we got it. I was 10 years old. And my dad asked me one day if I wanted to drive it. I said, yeah. So I got on it, pushed the clutch in. He put it in first gear. I wasn't allowed to touch anything except the steering wheel. He set the throttle, and away we went. Tractor I drove before that was an old Carmacari 1020. He let me drive a couple times. It was a good little tractor. My dad never liked it much, but I liked it.
So now when you look through the mailbox markets, what are you looking for?
A two-row corn planter for it. Yeah, it's a two-row John Deere 246 corn planter.
That's Harry Spade from Paradise, Lancaster County. On a future installment of Mailbox Market Stories, we'll hear from Charlie High, a dairy farmer from Juniata County, Pennsylvania, who says that reading the mailbox markets completely changed his life. But next on today's show, we're going to check in with Tom Colton, a hemp farmer from Hempfield, Pennsylvania. Tom Colton, welcome back to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. How's it going?
Going wonderful over here. How are you?
Yeah, we're on lockdown. I guess your county is under lockdown too with the stay-at-home orders from the governor.
Governor says we're under emergency, so yes.
So how is this lockdown affecting your hemp operation this spring?
I wish I could say it was, but it's not really doing anything to us. I mean, the agricultural community here in Lancaster, for what I've seen, even though I've been very isolated, because I have an elderly human being living with me. So from what I've seen from afar, everybody's pretty close and just going about business. It was kind of on the front page of the paper, actually, today at the New Holland sales stables. They were, you could see guys standing like this close together. I think in the playing community, they boast it hasn't really affected them, but their interactions with the English, I think, and especially people coming from out of state and mixing with them, that'll bring it into the forefront. So.
Yeah. Oh.
But yeah, it hasn't affected us much because we really haven't left. We're just out for groceries and then pick them up at the back door. But other than that,
yeah,
buried in the greenhouse.
Right. Well, let's talk about that. What's happening on the farm, hemp-wise, these days?
Just getting ready to work on got our seeds, so we're starting stuff. Planting a whole lot. I mean, we're doing 1.5 acres here.
Oh, so you're scaling way back from last year.
I wouldn't say scaling way back in terms of the workload, just scaling how much we're growing on this farm.
So you said you're doing about 1.5 acres?
That's what we've submitted, yes.
Okay. Couple of different varieties, or what are you planting?
2 CBG varieties.
Are you starting in seed trays and then going to transplant, or what's your...
I'm doing some kind of out there stuff this year. Planting in open beds, and then selecting out of those open beds and then planting those seeds that are what we think is vigorous, and what isn't going to make it, we just discard. We've learned from the hard way that the least vigorous starts that you get from these companies usually turn out to be the shittiest plants.
Mm-hmm. So these open beds, these are in a greenhouse?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But you could, dude, I saw stuff germinate in people's fields over the winter and January and February, so you could start them outside.
It's been pretty warm. I can't believe we didn't really get any snow this year.
No schnee.
And so what other plans do you have for hemp this year?
I'm just going to probably be participating in some custom work if people want to do it. But other than that, I mean, just taking it day by day, because this, what's happening now is kind of turned the faucet off a little bit, even more than the faucet was off. So I haven't heard a lot of correspondence in the industry since this has gone on. So we're just taking it day by day. But yeah, if the 15-day rule doesn't change, we'll probably be doing a lot of custom harvesting with bigger equipment.
You haven't heard anything about that getting changed, have you?
I saw some of the stuff but that wasn't on the list. So no, I haven't been paying too much attention. I'm more focused on getting just through this whole thing and get my grandpa not infected.
Yeah.
I'm just focused staying in the greenhouse, getting everything done, and everybody's kind of got their role here, and that's nice. I think it brings farm families even closer together.
All right. What else are you growing on the farm this year besides hemp?
We're doing a ton of tomatoes this year for some research trials, couple hundred varieties actually.
Wow.
We're doing a couple hundred varieties of field corn again for research evaluation. We have 370 plus varieties of dry beans that we're trialing. We just got finished potting up all the research. Onions will be finished with the leeks this week. So we're busy with veg.
Yeah.
But yeah, hemp is still I'm thinking about the future. As soon as the processing comes back, maybe we'll be interested in some textile stuff, maybe some dual process. But, we're going to drag our heels a little bit here, I think, and just try to be as observant but cautious as possible. I don't think we were kind of out in the wind as much as a lot of people last year. No disrespect to anybody, but we were cautious last year, but we're going to be even more cautious, not only like with what varieties we grow, but the dealings, like the everyday dealings with who we're dealing with this year.
Yeah.
I don't know how many contracts are going to be out there, but if there are any, they're going to be really selective. So I think maybe cut down on the amount of people that are growing. So maybe that'll force prices back up.
So what did you learn last year in the hemp space that you're putting into practice this year?
What I'll be putting into practice is less inputs, more strategic. If weather permits, this is the whole deal. Is if last year everybody got lucky because we had a lifetime season. I mean, it was once in a lifetime. You get, for me at least, you've had such perfect weather.
Yeah.
For growing everything. I mean, not a lot of disease pressure, at least here in Pennsylvania. So, and that's even in the fall. So that was rare.
And that's not going to hold this year.
I don't know. I mean, it's wet now. You don't know what it's going to turn out to be. And it's the only lesson that I can impart is just don't get comfortable. I mean, unless you have a crystal ball. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Other advice for hemp growers?
There's a lot of seeds out there now, supposedly that are feminized or this and that. And I mean, that's just a lesson from last year. And prices have gone down, but I'd say shop local. Try to find something that's been produced. I don't know what as close to your growing geographical region. That's going to give you an advantage. Other than that, try to have fun with it. Don't look backward, look forward. Wash your hands, stay home.
Are you doing any auto this year?
Oh yeah. Probably not on this farm, but I'm working with some other growers that are doing some projects with folks from out on the West Coast, and they're bringing in a lot of autos to trial and or just run here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to work with those on other farms, but not here personally. It gets confusing if you're for a small crew like we're running this year. We're not going to have a ton of people, obviously, on this farm, just for safety reasons.
Yep.
I mean, we made that commitment. So we're going to run a tight ship. And so I'm just going to run photo period plants and be done with it. And it gives me more time to focus on the other crops because that's going to be on my shoulders too. So
what else is sort of on your radar or on the horizon for this year for their hemp operation?
I just see for mine.
Yeah, I'm talking to you, right?
Yeah, for me personally and Alicia, we're just enjoying working with the plant, trying to find varieties that have something different. It's cool that we're being able to test now. We've just accessed some gas chromatography equipment and some.
Oh, you've got that on the farm?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Is that a service that you would offer to other growers?
I'm too busy, man. But I mean, I'm already got my friends hitting me up, so I haven't even gotten the unit fired up. But
okay.
It's far beyond my technical. I'm going to leave it to somebody else to handle. I'm going to leave it to a friend of mine who's more technically advanced. But
okay,
we were able to get it at a discount price, and it's going to be definitely an advantage for, at least in our eyes. We're looking to unlock some minor cannabinoids and see what's in there, and that'll give us a chance to test this stuff while we go rather than have to send it off and wait.
Yeah.
It's just nice to keep an eye on your plants. I mean, we've been able to soil test before, but we've never been able to plant test. So that's cool.
Cool. So I know that you're close with the Plain community farmers in your area. Those who grew hemp last year, are they going to get back into it this year?
They're very excited.
Yeah?
Oh, there's a ton of optimism.
Okay.
I see more movement in the Plain community with people getting off the fence and processing on their own. I mean, these guys are up and running distillate. I mean, I'm not promoting anybody, but definitely like the guys at Rainflow have their stuff up online right now selling distillate. And yeah, it's from what my friends tell me. I mean, in the Plainsec community, they all go over there and they're like, oh yeah, this stuff's the real deal, and these guys were up and running in December, so it's really cool to see that the farmer kind of took the reins and these guys put their money where their mouth is. And meanwhile, a lot of these guys are sitting around, it's April now and there's nothing being, no movement. So, or a little that can be seen. So it's cool to see movement here. And I mean, these guys are not going to invest that money and just wrap it up. So they're really moving forward, they're going to grow a lot more. And it helps those guys, especially that I mentioned, because I mean, they manufacture their own equipment. So
Do you have a sense of how hemp and CBD products have sort of come into the plain communities as a medicine?
Oh, absolutely. I can see it everywhere. And legitimate homegrown medicine. I mean, you can't make those claims, but here in our community, I mean, it's proven that it does help a lot of people in the Plainset community that have certain conditions that other folks aren't subject to, and it does provide relief. And that's what this is about. So I'm not going to argue with that. And if it works for my community, that's all I care about, really. I mean, especially now, that's more important than ever, is take care of your neighbors.
Tom Colton, hemp farmer from Hempfield, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. All right, well, that pretty much does it for me today. Thank you for going on this journey with me. Again, I hope you and your family are all safe and well stocked up and just, ready for this thing, whatever it is. Like I said last week, I'm looking for the silver linings, I have faith in silver linings. So, who am I? I am Eric Herlock. I'm the digital editor at Lancaster Farming newspaper, the greatest agricultural newspaper in the world. And you can check us out online at lancasterfarming.com. You can also follow us on the Instagram at LFPodcastHemp. And if you enjoyed the Mailbox Market Stories today, I want to hear about that. Drop me a line. Did you like it? You can email me, podcast@lancasterfarming.com. If you have a Mailbox Market story yourself, you can call the Lancaster Farming Storyline at 717-721-4416. All right, so until next time, I'll see you in the newspaper. This episode of the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast is copyright 2020 by Lancaster Farming Newspaper, part of the Steinman Communications family. Today's show was written and recorded, edited, and produced by Eric Herlock. The music you heard throughout the show is courtesy of Tin Bird Shadow.
Industrial hemp.